watching the international networks or the news networks, you will imagine that people cease to exist within an area that is under conflict, and they then just appear as corpses and people crying around corpses. The Zionist attack on Gaza, the latest that started on October 7th, kind of set the struggle of the Sudanese people and that of the Palestinian people in some sort of a silent competition for the attention of the media. It's like our war versus their genocide kind of situation. And that is basically related to how these media systems work and what they are based on, that they are in it for the breaking news, for the reach, and for the interactions, in a way that their coverage, even when it does exist, whether of Palestine and Sudan, have very little to provide for a revolutionary project. So having continuous, which is what we're seeing in some of the regional news organizations around East Asia and North Africa, the Arabic speaking world, we have some channels that are covering 24 hours what's happening in Palestine, but it is 24 hours of numbers of those who are killed and where the current attack is happening, and some infographics and moving maps and ex-military generals giving explanations that are very military. And that is something that generates more anger and despair than knowledge of what can be done to advance the liberation of those people that we are watching every day. So in both Sudan and Palestine, I think an important thing that we are now mostly getting from social media instead of getting from these large news network with all their huge staffs and huger budgets is how to understand the type of work and organizing that people do on the ground to help themselves in this situation. So to see what kind of setting kitchens or setting shelters, how do people get to do that? Because otherwise, watching the international networks or the news networks, you will imagine that people cease to exist within an area that is under conflict, and they then just appear as corpses and people crying around corpses. But there's a time between until you face that kind of violence, where you are facing different sorts of violences and insecurities regarding food, health, and there are many who are working and creating new methods and new types of organizations, even if they don't call it organizations, that help them provide for each other. And we do see those stories sometimes. So in the case of Sudan, you will find that odd report about the hospital or the doctor, the great doctor that is helping people in this conflict area, but it's always presented as an issue of individualistic heroism. Instead, what it is, which is like create popular organizations and networks that all are needed for the end result to be this doctor to be available. And those are the kind of experiences that we need, one, to show us that we are capable of change. And that is important because despair does not help anyone. And also for us to learn from, because we need them in different setups outside Sudan, Palestine, or other direct violence situations that are happening. And because this also shows us where we can put our support in a way that is sustainable.